G'day legends, another episode of 4x4 Camping and Adventures. And today's episode, 6 months into owning the Ranger. What's gone wrong? What's gone right? Do I still love it? And do I regret selling the 62? And what have I changed in this 6 months? So without further ado, let's get into the video, guys. So you could probably say 6 months of ownership, I've taken a few things, put 10,000 Ks on it. I've taken around a few camping spots now, been about, I don't know, 6 or 7 times camping with this thing, just to sort of test it out, see how it goes. And like any new car that you get, my theory is really test it out, find out what you actually need in the car, and then add those things to it later on, especially your camping setup. But 6 months in, where do I stand? Do I hate the car? Do I love the car? Did I do the worst thing and sell the Patrol? Well, not really. It's been actually a pleasure to own. I haven't had any dramas with it. I've only had 2 software updates that I can recall with Ford. One was to do with some sensors, which were the reverse. So when you put in reverse, it's got this reverse brake assist. There had to be an update to that, and there was an update to something to do with the handbrake, but really, really small stuff. Took it to Ford, they flashed it, done. What's it like own daily day to day? So really got on fuel. Still getting around 9.5 to sort of 10 litres per 100 on the highway, even with all the gear on it as it is now, which I think is quite good. So it sort of sits around like 9.8, 10.2, depending on wind and all that kind of stuff. But it's really good on fuel, so I've got no issues with filling her up, because as we all know these days, fuel's a bit how you're going. One thing I don't miss of the 62, because that was a 140 litre Ford fuel tank that needed 98. So yeah, filling that up. I remember filling that up, I think it was about 350 bucks. So that got me about, I reckon, 650 to 700 Ks, maybe, in the Patrol. So 140 litres to get 700 Ks wasn't a great return. And this is getting me about 800 Ks roughly to a tank. So it's pretty good. And I'm pretty happy with the fuel economy. As you would expect in any new dual cab ute, they're all pretty good on fuel. There's not much difference really across the range. Power, big thing, obviously going from a 62 to a 2-litre bi-turbo Ford Ranger. Power's been there. Obviously, it's not as powerful as the Patrol. I've never expected it would be. But going on the beach and overtaking trucks, all those things that you would normally do with a dual cab, I've never really had any issues with. So yeah, power, look, yeah, 300 kilowatts and I think it was 560 newton meters out of the Patrol was always a fun thing to drive. But obviously with that as well, you got the fuel bill that goes with it, because hearing that big roaring V8 is just costing you money every single time you open it up, unfortunately. So yeah, if I had one gripe, is the sound of this compared to the V8. You know, it's in no comparison. But as I said, early stages, 6 months in, 10,000 Ks on the clock. So I bought it with 4,000 Ks from a demo, so it was a demo car, and it's sitting at about 15,000 now. So it's just due for its first service. So I'll be interested to see how that goes. But as always, I'll just be taking it to Reese at Southwest Mechanical and Off-Road here in Bunbury on Rose Street. But yeah, I'm really happy with it so far. So everything I wanted out of the car has done. I've, want to go on a camping trip, no stress. I haven't had any issues with the gearbox, haven't had any issues with the sensors and the electronics and that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's been one thing I could probably talk about that I think some people have had issues with these cars is the center screen and Bluetooth dropping in and out. I haven't really had any of those issues, so yeah, I don't know what to say. It hasn't really caused any dramas in my sort of driving. The Bluetooth always syncs up, the CarPlay always hooks up, and I don't really have any issues of things dropping out. So it's definitely not an issue on my end. So yeah, let's go through what I've changed, where the car sits right now, and yeah, just a few things that have sort of stood out to me owning this compared to the Patrol. So let's get into it. All right, the back setup is probably the most asked about piece of the puzzle. With all dual cab utes, it's pretty hard to set these things up, but I believe I've got a pretty good setup in my car. So if you've watched my rear setup video, which was my last uploaded video, you can probably see this in a little bit more detail, but essentially it's a pretty simple setup for what I use it for. Drawer on the right hand side, pantry in the middle, and then obviously my common 69 litre fridge on the left hand side. and I've got a few other things in there like the Pirate Camco mold covers and all that kind of thing. So there's plenty going on in the back. I've also I spoke about a little bit in that video, but I've got the dust protection kit from My Tough 4-wheel drive, which I purchased, which was seemed to, from far as I'm aware, do a pretty good job. I was going down some pretty gravelly tracks last weekend with Maddie and the boys. We were down at Dwelling Up. It was pretty dry out there, and yeah, I didn't get any dust ingress, which is nice. So it's been a pretty good kit so far. It's quite a comprehensive kit, so yeah, worthwhile to do if you're going to have a tub on your car. And that's pretty much it for the rear. I've obviously got lights and that kind of stuff in there, but this has been a good setup. I haven't really tested it yet. So since doing all this and full drive shows and all that kind of stuff, I haven't had a chance to actually get out and use this setup to its full potential yet. What I'm keen on doing is a solo trip, which I'm actually lining up. So when this video comes out, it'll be the following weekend after. I'll film the whole trip like I usually do, but I want to sort of give this a bit of a rundown and just sort of see what it's capable of, because I think it's a pretty good setup for a ute, and I haven't really gone hard on testing it yet. I've done it like a one-nighter, and that seems to be fine, but I want to just sort of give it a bit of, rundown, corrugated roads, all that kind of stuff. But so far I've seen it's been pretty good, but I'm pretty keen to do that. That'll be next weekend. So I'm going to go east to sort of Waging area and do some camping around there, which will be pretty good, just a little bit different. If you've probably noticed, you can see at the top there, so I'll just close this up. You can see at the top, I've changed the rooftop tent. Now, I want to make a separate video about this because I think that it's deserving of a video of itself. So when I say I've changed it to suit the ute more. So if you remember, I had the rugged rooftop tent, which was a great rooftop tent, really happy with it. I bought it when I still had the Patrol, and it would have been perfect on the Patrol because it had that big roof. It would have sat on top of the roof rack I had in that car, and I wouldn't have had any dramas, and it would have been sweet. Now, it was a 2-meter long rooftop tent. So the problem I had with this car, and I'll go into a little bit of detail in the actual video, but it was too long for essentially the setup that I have here. I tried 3 different things to make it work, and it hasn't really worked. So I've obviously gotten rid of that, and I've gone to the Drifter. So it's the same one that Tony has. So if you know Mighty Overlander, it is 35 kilos. Oh, sorry, it might be 40 kilos. I'll get the specs, but 35 to 40 kilos, very, very light. And it's a 1.2 rooftop tent that folds this way. But as I said, I'll get into a little bit more detail when I go into that video. And as you would know, I've still got the tray and the rack, and I've got the awning up here, the 30-second awning up here as well. And that's pretty much it for the top now. So I've gotten rid of obviously the rooftop tent, changed it for this rooftop tent. My first sleep in that will be my solo trip, which will be next weekend. So I'm pretty keen to sort of test it out. I've opened it up at home and sort of had a bit of a lay in it and that kind of thing. So it's been pretty good. But yeah, keen to see what it's like, obviously, in the middle of the night when things get cold and all that kind of thing. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with how that's all changed up and how that all sits now. And I've got a little bit of space, so I've offset it a little bit, so it's a little bit to the right, so I can actually fit my shovel and that kind of stuff down here because I didn't have any room when I had the other rooftop tent. So I'll put a shovel and my 2-way antenna there as well, so I can sort of have it hiding down here and then pop it up when I need to. So yeah, so I've just offset it a little bit, and yeah, it works quite well. So let's go around to the front of the car and show you what I've changed in there. Okay, so under the bonnet, done a few little different things. So it's all pretty standard under here. She's a bit dusty now because she actually gets used as a 4-wheel drive and not as a mold crawler. But under here I've changed a few things, as you would probably know if you've been watching my videos. Obviously I ran the 12-volt setup, all 3 here myself. So the 12-volt system's all hooked up, which runs just from the back here and goes down the grommet. But I've also got down the bottom here little air compressor. It's just one of the ARB single compressors with a pressure sensor switch. So essentially you can leave it on, it will turn off when it needs to, and you can obviously pump your tires and all that kind of stuff up from the engine bay. So it's got a little cap here, which I'll show you, which has got a little dust cap on it, so it keeps the dust out of the airlines. But a very, very simple little setup. Beyond that, in the front end here, I haven't actually changed too much. As I said, the main thing is putting the bonnet struts on there, because for some reason in Ford's great wisdom, they thought this was a good idea, using the old pole. So Pirate Camco again, not sponsored, but they do some pretty awesome stuff for these cars. They hooked me up with these bonnet struts, which are awesome because, you know, nothing beats bonnet struts. And as I said, they do the bracket as well for the air compressor down here. So it's pretty well neat setup. Nothing else has really changed in here. I'm not going to do anything to the motor because I don't really see the point. It's got plenty of power, and I just don't want to change anything for warranty factors, because as soon as you start changing things on these cars, Ford gets a bit funny, like any manufacturer would. And that's pretty much it, guys. There's probably going to be one change that's going to change to the front grille. I won't give you too much detail, but Pirate Camco, once again, they do a grill light bar kit, which you get some Bush Ranger 22-inch light bars, and you actually have light bars in the front grille here, which is pretty cool. So I'm going to get that so I can run essentially a spot setup at the front. Again, saving myself putting big spotties and that kind of stuff on the car. And it's all about weight that I've really factored in here. So trying to keep the weight down is the big thing, and just making sure that, you know, I'm not overloading this thing, which I haven't done. So yeah, that's pretty much the front setup now. Air compressor in the bonnet, and a few other things that I've changed to make everything work perfectly. And yeah, it's a nice, neat little setup. So as you would know, I suppose comparing this to the Y62 Patrol, this is quite a bit of a space age type setup. Patrol was pretty much, if you wanted to look at a 2012 interior with some wood grain, that was your Patrol. Didn't have Apple CarPlay, didn't really have anything inside. You had Bluetooth and a basic nav system, and obviously with the Ford Ranger, you have everything. So you got this big 10-inch screen in the middle, digital display in front of you. Now, some people say, oh yeah, there's more things to go wrong. There's plenty to go wrong in any new car, mate. If you're going to live your life on, oh, you know, this is going to be wrong and this is going to be, you know, break down, all that kind of stuff, honestly, you're not going to have a fun time getting a new car, because every new car has all these bells and whistles essentially. So, you know, you just got to live with the fact that, you know, there's a lot of technology in these cars now, and, you know, embrace it instead of sort of pushing back on it. So the interior of this car is fantastic. Probably the one thing that I sort of spoke about in my early sort of thoughts about this car is the gear knob, and I haven't really had any issue with it. So once I learned that, you know, it's such a small up and down motion, so essentially it's like click, 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 and it's only a tiny little motion. Once I worked that out, it's never been an issue. I've never sit there and gone, oh, damn, you stupid thing, get in there. It's always been very simple. This whole setup down here is awesome. The drive modes are cool. As I said, when you go on forward driving, you put into sand mode, it puts into 4 high, locks the rear diff, turns the traction control off. Park brake, I mean, essentially it's electric park brake, nothing there. I haven't used the Tow Pro yet, so I'm pretty keen to sort of see how that goes when I tow a camper or something like that. But I haven't used anything yet, but it's all inbuilt, which is pretty cool. As I said, wireless charger down here. You got USB ports. You got a little spot here for your keys or a chips if you're that keen. Nice, comfy, really soft interior. Everything's nice. Everything's nice to touch. It's just a nice place to be. The Wild Track here essentially gets some cups, cup holders and that kind of stuff here, and you get a heads-up display. But I don't really care about that. I haven't felt like I needed it or feel like I missed out, and everything else is just really nice. So LED lighting all throughout, so no halogen lights. It's just nice. It's just a nice place to be. Super comfortable. These seats are super comfy. They've been wearing really well. I haven't had any issues. But I don't feel like, you know, the sides are sort of sagging or pushing in or, you know, like folding over. That's all been nice. It's quite a sort of hardy leather, whereas the Patrol was quite a soft leather. You notice the crinkles and creases and that kind of stuff in the Patrol quite quickly, versus this is quite a hardy leather, which is good. And obviously the floor mats down there from Maxiliner have been holding up really well. They do a great job of protecting essentially the whole interior. So I can rip these out, give the floor a quick vacuum, and they come up, you know, Mickey Mouse, beautiful. So yeah, as I said, it's a really nice place to be. I'm 6'2", so I got plenty of room in here. It's a you know, I've got plenty of room for my feet. The biggest gripe I probably had with a dual cab is the distance of the steering wheel to my legs. So when I was in the Trident, I always used to have an issue of you're just rubbing the bottom of your feet, sorry, the top of your knees. So in this, I've got plenty of room. You've got plenty of adjustment under here. So, you know, if you put it up or down or whatever you want to do, pull it in or out or whatever you need to do, it all is very, very nice. It's just a nice place to be. As I said, I haven't really changed anything in here because you don't really need to. There's nothing you really need to add in here. I've got a kit for behind the glove box, which is also Pirate Camp Co., which is their GME hideaway kit, which would be good. And there's a little, essentially like a little holder that you can have the magnetic mount for the GME two-ways in here as well. So I've got to get myself another GME two-way, so I'll get around to doing that. And that'll be the only essential add-on that I've put in here that I can think of. Everything else is just pretty much factory and it works really well. So I haven't had to change anything. As I said, comfy place to be. It's nice and comfy for long drives. The seats are good. Yeah, it's a nice place to be. Yeah, so the one thing I haven't really spoken about is rims. So you would have noticed if you see my other videos, I've always had the stock rims on here. I did have some spacers on it, which were, you know, okay. They weren't the most legal thing in the world, but, you know, I just put them on there because to push the wheels out so it didn't look like I missed leg day so much. But these are a positive 25 offset, ROH assaults with a black finish on the lip and a graphite finish on the inside. I've gone back to ROH because, you know, I really was happy with my ROH invaders on my patrol, and they hooked me up again. So yeah, they've always been really good to me. So I'll go back to ROH again and yeah, keep running their rims. So they've been really good, really good. I suppose the big thing about most of these rims is obviously they're alloys, so you know you have the issues of potential cracking and that kind of thing. But you know, I put my other ROHs through a fair bit of crap on the patrol. You know, you had 3.5 tons in on those things. So you know, doing rock steps and that kind of stuff, and they never had any dramas. So yeah, I can only say with this little 2-ton car on these should you know, do just fine. So I haven't actually thought about tyres yet. So at the moment, I've just got some stockies on there, some basic all-terrains. But yeah, I'll probably well, I've been speaking to Todd from Off-Road Crusader. Go give him a sub because he's got an awesome channel. And he has got the new 200, which he got some KO2s on it, and he's going to swap them out for some 35s. So I said to him, hey, look, you know, what are you doing with the old tyres? And we're going to do a bit of a deal on those. So I might end up putting some KO2s on here, which would be pretty cool, because I've never actually run that tyre before, so it'll be interesting to see how they go. But they won't be new, but they'll be secondhand. But I think he said they only got like 10,000 Ks on them, so they're pretty much brand new. So yeah, I might run some KO2s, but yeah, 18x9 plus 25 offset ROH assaults, and I'm really, really happy with them. They look awesome, they complement the car, and I think it really just sort of makes the car stand out a little bit more instead of that Western Power white Ranger cars that you see all around. But yeah, no, I think it really complements the car. So yeah, that's the new rims on the Ranger. That's my Ranger. This is obviously 6 months in. There's plenty more things that are going to get done to the car. There is going to be eventually a lift kit just to sort of cater for the extra weight in the back. I've been looking at some remote resi kits and all that kind of things, so don't know really which way to go about that yet, but I've got some things in mind. So there's going to be a you know, suspension upgrade in the future, and I'm not going to go the full 50mm. I'll probably just go 35mm lift just to give it a little bit more height, so I keep my down travel and up travel and all that kind of thing. And yeah, obviously make it, you know, CV snapping territory and all that kind of thing. As I said, this is my tourer. It's a daily. It's well, it's not daily, but it's my sort of weekend car that I want it to be nice and plush, turning into an old man. So yeah, try to make it as plush as possible. So yeah, something you know, a little bit nicer to ride compared to let's say my Trident, which had like a 3-inch lift kit, and yeah, actually drove like crap. But in the end, it drove okay. But yeah, it was pretty average there in the middle when I started lifting it up and putting big tyres and that kind of stuff on it. So as I said, the sort of long-term thing with this car is make it a capable tourer that I can just sort of take out for the weekend and enjoy it and enjoy camping, because that's pretty much where I'm at in my life now, is getting out there and enjoying it and making life really, really easy. So hence why stuff like the rear setup is exactly the way it is. And you know, I got the rooftop tent, so I don't have to drag the swag with me and all that kind of thing. It's just making life easier. So yeah, that's my Ford Ranger 2022 in a sport with a bi-turbo 2-litre. And talking about the 2-litre, I'll probably just touch on this in a little bit, because a lot of people said to me, oh, you're going to have nothing but dramas with that motor. You know, the buckets of crap. And everything I've seen so far is the V6s are the ones having all the dramas. I just saw Ruben's video about his one. Essentially some oil piece went wrong with the turbo setup and starved the turbo, and he ended up with a new motor. And Pyrocamco, their V6 also had dramas. So I'm seeing a lot of these V6s go wrong, but I'm not seeing too many of these 2 litres go wrong. So hopefully, in the long-term things, I've chosen the right motor and I don't have any issues with it. But the gearbox has been going strong. Another thing that I'll probably touch base on that was spoken about when these first come out is they're fine on the beach. Like, I've driven this on the beach for hours and never had any issues with the temperatures of the transmission. So yeah, don't feel afraid that you've seen videos in the past saying, oh, these things get hot. If you drive them how they're meant to be and use the essentially the 4 drive modes that come from factory, you don't have any issues. But in the long term, I probably will, just for, again, longevity things, I'll probably put a wholesale transmission cooler on it, and that's purely just to get longevity out of the gearbox. So anything you can do to make your gear last longer, and I know Rocket stuff is always all high quality gear, and you know, he doesn't just make stuff for the sake of it. It's going to get longevity out of the gearbox and the oil and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, keep it in a better temperature range when it is on the beach. So, you know, you don't have any dramas down the future. So, as we know, gearboxes, as they get older, they generally have more issues. So, if you can keep it nice and cool, just like your motor and all those kind of things, you generally get longer lasting time out of it. And that's pretty much it, guys. So, as I said, my Ford Ranger 2022, really happy with it still. Yes, do I miss the Patrol? Of course I do. It was a V8 with a big stonk and 300 kilowatts, and yeah, it was a fun thing to drive. But as I said, once the bad taste in your mouth from a manufacturer, it is hard to go back there. So yeah, look, here we are. We're ready to go camping next weekend. You're actually watching this on the weekend of the Ford Drive show, so there's plenty going on out there in Perth if you're going to go visit that. But yeah, as always, thanks so much for watching, guys, and I appreciate you coming back to let me talk about my car and, you know, watch the channel. I think we're about to crack 7 years on this channel, which is pretty crazy, and there's still plenty to come up. I've got so much to film still and talk about. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys. As always, if I don't see you here in the tracks and trails, I might see you in the next video. If I don't see you in the next video, I shall see you later. Have a great Sunday, guys. Bye.